The saying goes, you may like sausage, but you don't want to see how it's made. Well, some say that applies to how laws are made too. We've been investigating one state law in particular, the one that's supposed to protect you from home rescue scams and loan modification cons. It's a huge problem here in the foreclosure capital of America. It's called Assembly Bill 152, and as you're about to see, the law we got in the end is nothing like what went into the assembly line at the beginning.
We've received hundreds of complaints for loan modification fraud. We have approximately 130 companies that we've received complaints against in Clark County alone.
Complaints from homeowners who paid thousands of dollars in upfront fees and got no help.
The problem is a lot larger than the public even knows. It's epidemic.
Those upfront fees make it too easy for scammers to take the money and run. That's why the feds are considering banning them outright, and 20 states already do. Nevada did too, or at least it looked like we did. A law passed in 2007 banned foreclosure consultants from charging upfront fees.
I thought at the time we had taken care of this entire problem.
But companies found a way around that law, reinventing themselves as loan modification consultants instead of foreclosure consultants, targeting homeowners who were struggling but not technically in foreclosure since they hadn't received a notice of default. The Nevada Division of Mortgage Lending and its commissioner, Joseph Waltuck, decided that loan modification was a gray area, so the law didn't apply, and those loan modification consultants were free to take money up front.
His office interpreted the law so narrowly that it only covered people who were in foreclosure that minute, not people who were going to go into foreclosure. So the law had to be rewritten. And I was so frustrated.
So last legislative session, Assemblyman Marcus Conklin sponsored a bill requiring all consultants to be licensed and banning them from collecting money until they produced real results.
So this bill is really designed to ratchet down on companies. If you're going to make a promise and you're going to take money, you got to be able to deliver. Anything else, as far as we're concerned, is a scam.
But again, not so fast. By the time the bill became a law, it had changed dramatically. Somewhere along the way, it was amended to allow upfront fees as long as the company was licensed, something Conklin's original version specifically outlawed.
That's the bill that we started with.
And that got flipped on its head.
No bill starts and ends in the same form.
But it
rarely happens.
It's exactly opposite, right?
Well, I don't think it's exactly opposite.
It was clearly a major change from the original version. So we started looking into when the bill changed and who was there when it did. And one name kept popping up, Mandy Peacock, who happens to own a loan modification company here in town.
We were calling the mortgage lending division every day, how do we be compliant? How do we be compliant? What, because there was no drawn out rules. Mm-hmm. So then as we found out what the bill was and what it was going to do, we're like, well, that's not going to work. So what else could they do?
She went to Carson City and pushed for big changes in the bill.
She was there a lot. I think, at least in the Senate, she made a compelling case.
Mandy Peacock testified for 30 minutes before the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. And while she talked a lot about protecting consumers,
the services spoken of in this bill are necessary ones to keep people in their homes.
The changes she pushed for seemed to be more about protecting her industry. Chief among those was allowing upfront fees.
Loan modification and foreclosure consultants, we must collect directly from the consumer.
We asked her what she added to the bill that actually protects consumers.
Allowing upfront fees so that the option to obtain third-party services if they chose to do so, which is, it's a constitutional right, it was written into, which our country has unfortunately gotten away from our constitutional rights and, what our forefathers developed for the United States of America. However, people have a right. If they want to pay and they believe in that and they want to research, why not?
Okay, so why not let them pay after the deal is done?
In this situation, we've got consumers who are having a hard time paying their bills, and so there's no control as to us getting the money unless we get it from them to start with.
When we look at the final version of the law that passed, a lot of the things that you suggested ended up in the law.
I would say conservatively that we amended about 50% of it.
And while Peacock had every right to make her voice heard, we had to wonder if the lawmakers might have listened a little too much to someone who had so much to gain.
She was at my doorstep probably every day for 2 months. So she was definitely there, definitely aggressive for her issues.
So every day for 2 months you saw her?
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Does that wear you down after a while?
Yes, it does.
Let me ask you then, Assemblyman Marcus Conklin, just your personal opinion as sponsor of AB 152, the final version. Are you happy with it? Does it protect consumers?
Well, time will tell. I'm going to watch it closely. This is probably something that we're going to have to work on again next session.
Assembly Speaker Barbara Buckley says a law is only words on paper. To have any real impact, it needs to be enforced.
Vultures find a way of ripping people off no matter what the statutes say. To me, the key is enforcement. You got to have a tough regulator.
And again, the chief regulator for the loan industry in our state is Mortgage Lending Commissioner Joseph Waltuck. And Speaker Buckley says that may be the real problem.
I haven't had faith in this commissioner since he was appointed. He came from the industry, and I think it's his orientation to protect the industry and not consumers.
And that's where we'll pick up the story tomorrow night at 5. We'll explore the relationship between Commissioner Waltuck and the industry he regulates, and one business owner in particular. You might have a guess as to who that might be. That's tomorrow at 5. Hope you can tune in for that.